it's Steph from iDriver Classic, and today I'm back in probably the only place in the world that you'll ever find Austin 7s and Aliens nestled side by side. It's the Goodwood Revival 2022. Now today's video is going to show you all sorts of things that are here. We're not just focusing on the racing, we're seeing everything else there is to see at Goodwood Revival. This is a fantastic 3-day event and it's the highlight of my year every year, and I cannot wait to share it with you. So let's kick off and we'll go and look at some of the things that are on display.
There's a UFO landed in there. The government are trying to convince everybody that it's a weather balloon. We don't believe it, and we've seen aliens come out of it. So whatever they tell you, don't believe them.
Stay safe out there.
These men are lying to us for whatever reason. I don't know why, but we're going to get to the truth of it. This is Hugo Lang, NBC News, in search of the truth. Thank you.
There are no UFOs, there are no aliens. It's a Russian weather balloon that crashed during a test launch. There are no UFOs, please. There's no aliens in existence. They do not exist. There is nothing to say.
I know you're probably wondering if I actually got to meet one. Well, I did, and those nails on the hand really freak me out. One of my favourite bits of the weekend was Betty's hair salon invited me to come and get my hair done, and I jumped at the chance because I'd been sleeping in a tent. I looked disgusting and I was covering up with this giant hat. So I browsed their hairstyle booklet and then I got taken to the chair with this incredibly talented lady who turned my hair around. Let me show you what she did because I was so impressed and thought she did a fantastic job. We spoke at the start of this video about there being Austins and aliens. We've seen the aliens, but it's time to see some of these Austins. And we are doing something fantastic that I have never done at Goodwood Revival before. We are going for a ride around the track in the Austin 7 parade. So they've run it every day, and thankfully I had a brilliant contact with my friend Chris, who has had this Austin 7 in her family for over 70 years. And to say that some of these are 100, it might seem rather unusual to some people to own an Austin 7 and to still be driving it in 2022. So whilst I show you some of the track footage from our ride round, I thought I'd catch up with Chris and find out what's a young woman doing owning an Austin 7 in 2022.
So driving this is, well, it can be entertaining. It's also quite hard work. There's a lot of changing gears. There's only 3 speeds. So first is pulling away from a junction, second is any hill, and third is when you're on a straight or downhill or anything. It's changing gear is quite easy once you learn how to do it, but learning, you will make all sorts of mistakes all the time. It's hard for me to describe how it is to drive because unless you've driven one of these, it's so different from a modern car that you just don't, it's so different. It's like driving a tractor or something. So obviously this year we're celebrating 100 years of Austin 7s, hence being at Goodwood with 50 odd Austin 7s. They are still a very, very usable car. There are so many events you can get involved in. There are trials, there are tours, there are sprints and all sorts of things that you can either build your own Austin 7 or buy one. They're a brilliant car for young people because they're rather cheap. They're cheaper than all the rest of the vintage cars that you see out there. You can get the parts incredibly easily, and they're a very good gearbox to learn on. They're incredibly difficult, but once you've mastered them, you can pretty much move on to any vintage car and you've got it.
Now this is Revive and Thrive, and it was a completely new area for this year, and I didn't know what to expect, but I was really impressed by it. Essentially, it was getting that make do and mend spirit and showing people how to turn bad things into good and how to learn new skills and repair things. All in all, a really genius addition to the event. One of the elements of Goodwood Revival that I enjoy a lot is the recreation of the Earls Court Motor Show. But instead of always looking backwards, like some of the elements, Well, we're at the Earls Motor Show, but one of the elements about this that I really like is that a lot of the areas of Goodwood Revival reminisce about the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, but the Earls Motor Show looks forward in time, and this year the theming is the future of the car, and with the idea that from 2030 petrol cars will no longer be sold, manufacturers have been invited in today to showcase their concepts and their new cars, which they think will be taking us from, well, probably the next few years into the decades into the future. So for me this is incredibly interesting because it shows us those future classics really, and those cars which are going to shape what we drive in the future. So let's have a look round and hopefully we can catch up with one of the manufacturers.
Hi there, I'm Steve Waddingham. I'm the Aston Martin historian for Aston Martin Lagonda Limited, and welcome to the Goodwood Revival stand. We've got 3 cars with us at the moment. We've got a DB5 Caribbean Pearl Blue with a blue leather interior, original colour specification, car that was fully restored. That's with us, but we've also got a car that is on sale at the moment and due out in production soon, called the Valhalla. It's a supercar. It's 1,000 brake horsepower, or 1,000 PS as they say today. So completely different sort of car to the DB5. And then we've got a car over here called the DBX 707, and that's our most powerful SUV. So 707 PS, fabulous car, and 3 very different sorts of Aston Martin really, just to sort of show the past, the future and the present.
I mean, there's racing, there's cars, but really for me, one of the big things about this is catching up with friends, because everyone's in a great spirit and you get to see so many people from all over the UK. If you've never been to Goodwood before, you may not know that absolutely everywhere, all over the site, are these fantastic installations, and you get to see all sorts of stuff that you just wouldn't see anywhere else. But as I'm sure you've realised, there's an awful lot going on, so beware and make sure you write down the races you want to see and plan them into your diary, because it's really easy to lose track of time.
So I'm Lucas Gomersall. I'm doing the Goodwood Best Dressed judging for this year. I get asked to do it pretty much every year now. This year I'm doing just the Friday, so there'll be different people for tomorrow and also Sunday. What we're looking for is we're looking for people who get everything properly period correct, which it sounds really difficult. It's very much focused around the people who are genuinely really into the fashion. It can be very difficult to get it right, but you don't have to spend a lot of money to do it if you know what you're looking for, and that's what's important. So I see a lot of there's a lot of guys around here who are really well dressed, but it's just taking it that extra level, and that's what we're looking for. So Steph is going to be joining the Best Dress competition because she's come in a lovely 60s dress, which looks great, and has got everything right with regards to hat and earrings and all that sort of thing. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So we've only just got here, we've not really handed anything out as yet. So if you're at the festival and you get one of these, you've done well.
We've seen some of the racing, we've seen some of the race cars and some of the bits in between, but let's go somewhere extra special. Now what I thought we'd do next is we'd head off into the pits. If you're coming to Goodwood, make sure you've got a pass for this, because this does need an additional pass and you can't get in just on standard admission. But I thought what I'd do is I'd show you some of the cars that are here in the pits today, including these fabulous J40s that are racing in I think it's the 10th Setrington Cup. So let's head off, I'll show you some cars and I'll show you my favourite thing in the pits today. If you're one of those people like me that wondered in my first year if it's worth buying a pit pass, you definitely need to do it, because the stuff that you see in here is incredible. You can get up close and personal, there's no gates stopping you, there's mechanics working on things, there's trophy winners, there's absolutely everything here that builds up that magic before you see the race and after you see the race. It's such an important area to come and see. The one thing I would say is if you've never been into this area before, and you might notice it as we mill around amongst the cars and you look at people in the background, is people are dressed quite smartly. There is a dress code for this area for the pits, so I think gentlemen it is a collared shirt and tie or overalls, and for a lady it's just respectable dress. They're not so funny about hats anymore, but it does suggest that you do wear a hat down into here. And why wouldn't you? Because it's a special day out at an incredible venue. And if you're wondering what I picked as my favourite car, it's this incredible 1963 AC Cobra, finished in this incredible pink metallic paint. A winner, and, well, a winner to me as well. We've looked at the full-size race cars, and I couldn't miss out the Austin J40s. They are incredible cars, and of course 2022 was a really special year. It was 10 years of the Sextington Cup, which is where they raced the J40s, and they even had a celebrity guest appearance down in the pits for the children, which was lovely. If you're anything like me and a bit of a petrol head, you've probably got a bit of a fondness for the Austin J40. And so when I knew that the Austin J40 company, now known as Austin Pedal Cars, were going to be here, I had to come and see what the lineup was, because I knew that they were going to be showing some things, not only of the current stock that they've got, but talking about some of the old stuff and talking about, probably more excitingly, what's coming in the future. So I asked Mark to tell us a little bit about the past, the present and the future of Austin Pedal Cars. So Mark, over to you, because you can tell the story far better than I can.
Hi there, my name is Mark Burnett and I'm the Managing Director of Austin Pedal Cars. 10 years of the Sextington Cup this year. We thought no better place to present the new company than Goodwood Revival. We're showing all sorts of things this weekend, including what we've got here, which is a historical view of the Austin J40. On my right here we've got Joy 1. Joy 1 is the first ever J40. Now, it doesn't look like the other J40s and is known as Joy 1 because it was the first prototype model. It's a one-off, and Gaydon Motor Museum have been very kind in letting us borrow that. In the middle we've got a car that was won by Ted French when he entered the 1955 Silverstone pedal car race, which he won, and then as a prize was given this car, and he still owns this car today, and he's let us borrow that. Fantastic bit of patina on that car. And then this car here is a car that was built, it's the fifth last J40 built on the last day of production, in its original paint and its original used condition, a lovely car. So here today we've got a range of cars for sale. We've got a range of cars that we have restored ourselves, and we've got some other cars that are previous restorations that are for sale. You can see behind me we've got some really nicely restored cars, including this one here, which is our latest car from the restoration department, beautifully presented in original Austin Midnight Blue. Okay, so we talked about the past, we talked about what we're doing now, and this is a sort of example of the future and the future thinking that we've been going through. We've basically taken the J40 drivetrain, the pedal gear, and applied modern tech and modern thinking to try and produce something for the future. So we've looked at every detail of that pedal system. We've engineered that perfectly using CAD, using 3D printing, 3D design, and looked at how we can save weight and looked at how we can make it really beautiful. So that's what we're seeing here. And saving the best till last, what we have here is our new continuation concept for the J40. Again, beautifully engineered, all in-house by Austin Pedal Cars. We've got a hand-formed aluminium body, and we've got beautiful leather, and we've got a drivetrain again that has been probably over-engineered for a pedal car, but beautifully engineered. We've looked at stress analysis to make sure the components will actually stand up to vigorous pedaling, and we've used modern bearings, and we've used, wherever we can, we've used modern thinking and technologies, come up with what is essentially the best pedal car that you can imagine.
An area which sometimes gets missed or overlooked are these fantastic workshops that change every year but always have a plethora of interesting stuff inside. So if you're coming, make sure you put this on your list of things to see, and don't just walk past if you see a crowd. It's well worth it. Nestled amongst all the attractions and everything else going on and the racing are incredible actors and actresses doing incredible sets and essentially coming up with different innovative ideas to keep people entertained and they're not even advertised. So you'll be walking along and you'll see a nun burst into song, or you'll see a washerwoman coming past you. Let me show you a couple of the others that I really enjoyed this year.
Here's what ails you. That's right, if you're feeling at death's door, one whiff of our plums will see you through it, my friends.
No, he's here. He's not. He sat in the first row, which means he wants to be with me. And I know that he's here.
But he's not here now,
yes,
is he?
He is. He's somewhere. That gentleman said he saw him.
Well, we've been all the way around and we haven't found him.
Well, he's
Father's
there
waiting,
somewhere.
your father's waiting.
I don't care about my father.
I know you don't.
Please, I'm upset right now. It's not. Have you seen every change?
It's not always about you,
Have you seen every change? It's not always about blue eyes. Have you seen it?
Look, I know it's the most cliche thing to say when I say, oh, there's something for everyone, but there really is. There is so many good vehicles at Goodwood Revival. In fact, we've got a video to come after this one, which is going to show you the classic car park. But this is just a taste of what's inside on display. And some of these vehicles are so incredibly rare and incredibly special that you just have never seen them before. They even had planes this year. And look, full disclosure, planes are not my thing at all. But there were planes, and my friend Richard was well into this. And he said, oh, that's something such and such, and there's only a few of those. And if you're into planes, this would have definitely been your sort of bag. And if you're into bikes, there are plenty of bikes here as well. But for me, there was one standout vehicle which really took my fancy. Now, I'm a big fan of British Patho films. I love watching them on YouTube. And I'd seen this Austin 7 racing round in a Patho video before. And it was incredible to see it here after watching it in the video. And it wasn't a recreation, it was the real thing as was seen in the reels. And for me, it was worth the entry price alone. I absolutely loved this. A big highlight for me was getting a lift in this series Land Rover from the campsite over to the main Goodwood site, which was going really well on day 2 until I realised that my hat was coming off and then it fully slipped off. That's a bit of a taster of the main Goodwood event, but there's also something called Over the Road, and if you've never been before, I couldn't really picture this, but it is incredible. Imagine old school fairground rides, shops, everything. And if you're into this sort of thing, it's very Instagrammable as well. You can get lots of pictures, lots of great footage, and it's open at night. And the reason I tell you this is make the most of the main site during the day and then enjoy Over the Road at night, because they've got all the fairground rides open. They've got the Revival cinema, which was brilliant. You could sit in old classic cars and watch old films. This is silent, by the way, because I could get in trouble with whoever owns the rights to Grease, because that's what was playing on the television, and it was fantastic. And as well, they had something else this year, which was, and I've seen it before, the Demon Drome. And essentially, when you came inside, you got to see people performing stunts on bikes, which was the real icing on the cake for Goodwood this year. I loved this. Now for us, it's back to the main Goodwood site, because we're going to finish our lovely time at Goodwood by watching some of the racing, because it feels like there's been so many other things to do that we've actually missed some of the races this weekend. So the resolution for 2023, more racing and less socialising, I think, but it's been great. As you can see, with the sun setting behind us and my feet feeling like they can take no more, it is the end of Goodwood Revival. It has been incredible and it's been a real privilege to share it with you. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've never been before, get yourself some tickets for next year. Don't miss out on this amazing weekend. And if you want a little bit more of Goodwood Revival, we've got another video coming soon all about the car park, the classic car park, and I'll show you some of the highlights. But until next time, take care and drive safely.